I'm looking into it.
I'm sure a lot of people would love to see it, on all the streaming platforms, because that seems to be the way things are going. So, but let's talk Red Dragon Cartel. You came back with just a great record. Was it 2014? The first one came out, is that right?
Yep. 2000.
Was there a falling out with you and Mark that I recall? I know you had some problems with Darren briefly. I don't know. I can't remember if it was like he was stuck in Canada or something. You had a lot of singers kind of fill in for a bit, but Mark seemed to be very instrumental in. And that's right, Mark Mancuso, is that the name?
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was wondering who the hell Mark was.
Do I have his name wrong? I mean,
You do.
Okay, well, anyway, the bass player on your first record.
Let's just call him that guy.
Okay, that guy. I know he was instrumental in putting the thing together. I remember watching some of the videos when you because again, I'm a bit of a super fan. I absorb everything Jakey Lee. I was checking all these videos out and like these little things you're talking about the album that was going to be coming out. But I recall somewhere along the line there seemed to be a pretty hard falling out, and you actually brought in Greg from Badlands to take over it at one point.
There was a definite falling out.
Can we talk about it or not?
Sure. Yeah, I haven't. And I kind of I had a huge falling out with and right off the bat I gotta say he takes a lot more credit than he deserves for everything, and that's just the kind of guy he is. I wouldn't contradict him during interviews and shit, but yeah, making the Red Dragon Cartel record, the first one, it wasn't through any desire of mine to finally get to work with Ron Mancuso.
Ron! I was calling him Mark. Okay.
Yeah. That wasn't like one of my big goals in life. And I did the first record because Kevin Churko was producing.
Okay.
Kevin's the one who convinced me to go ahead and try to make a record.
Yeah.
It wasn't the other guy, but he took credit for that. He even took credit for writing part of Rock and Roll Rebel. I remember that. And in public, I never contradicted him. But I had never met the motherfucker until I was in Badlands.
I was going to say,
I remember
you're talking about
him.
the Ozzy song, right?
Yeah.
Jesus
yeah.
Christ. All right.
He at some point said that he had helped write it, and like I said, I didn't contradict him. I thought he was a friend at the time, and I didn't want to embarrass him. But the first time I met him was in 1988 at Limelight in New York. I remember it clearly. So how did he help write a fucking Ozzy song?
I have no idea.
Anyway, he takes a lot of credit where he has none, and that's part of the falling out.
Okay.
Also, he wanted to be the bass player in the band. He's a horrible bass player. He can't play bass. The reason
could he play bass for Poison?
Well, maybe. No, he could play. I tell you what, he could play bass in Tough.
Okay.
Oh, I know. I'm going to get such a bad reputation.
You want to talk about Yngwie again?
I know.
No. Anyway.
And what website is it that Tough Singer has? It's
Metal Sludge.
Yeah. Oh, I'm going to be so fucking banged up over this on Metal Sludge. Anyway, going back, he's a terrible bass player, but because I thought we were friends, at one point he said, "Please let me be the bass player. I can play bass. I'm sitting here." He manages a restaurant here in Las Vegas that his mother owns, and he said, "Please let me play bass. I've been sitting behind this desk managing a restaurant for years. I never got to really go out on the road and do a tour. This would be a lifelong dream of mine. Please, I beg of you, let me play bass." And so I said, "Yes, of course you can. You're my friend." I want you to be happy. But then we went on the road, and he was just god awful. I mean, and that's where things really started to deteriorate.
Okay.
There was that. There was he was also tour managing because he said he could. He'd never done it before, and there again, it was just a mess. It was a mess. And let me see if I should actually say this.
Yes.
Oh, fuck it. Fuck it. I just say it like it is. We finished the European tour, and for the European tour, we had a real tour manager. His name's John Brown. At the end of the tour, we're going home. Ron decides he wants to spend a couple extra days in Amsterdam, you know, because that's a fun city to spend a couple extra days. John Brown told me he gave him a certain amount of cash, a decent amount of money, to take back. When Ron came back, he said he didn't have any money.
Ooh.
Then when I pressed him about it, he said he got a little bit of money, but nothing like what John Brown says he gave him. And he put it in his bank account, so it was safe. We had a business relationship, right?
Mm-hmm.
We had a band bank account. Ron did not put the money in the band bank account. He says he put it in his own, so he knew it would be safe. Safe from me? It made no sense. And
real quick, so people understand, when a band goes on tour, typically you basically run on a budget the entire tour, and everything that's left over from the money that's left over, aside from like the per diems and the cost of just getting from venue to venue, is just then at the end of the tour, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, that's where your profit
That's the
is.
money. Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I saw no profit from the European tour, and I was not grateful that Ron decided to put the money in his account to keep it safe. It was just wrong. It was wrong on every level, and it was a huge betrayal, I think.
Sure.
And I have nothing good to say about that guy. And this is the last time I'll talk about him, because I don't want to waste my breath on him anymore.
We can call him Mark going forward.
Mark, I'd want nothing to do with him. He's an extremely dishonest person, and I felt very betrayed by him. And I will say, and like I said, I'm not going to talk about him. You have the exclusive here.
Right.
I will, although Eddie Trunk might be able to pull it out of me, I don't know.
I could really use the scoop.
You got the scoop. You know what? You've got the scoop. I guarantee you. I will not, because I don't want to talk about him again. But I needed to get it off my chest.
Yeah,
and so you have it. And the last thing I will say about him is that two of the songs on the new, which we haven't talked about yet, new Red Dragon Cartel.
We're almost there, Jake.
Okay. On Patina, two of the songs lyrically were inspired by him. And the first one is Crooked Man, and the second one was Punch Clown, because that might be what happens if I ever see him again.
Oh, boy. Shots fired. Real quick, I had a thing on the side that I wanted to ask you about, and then we'll go into Patina. Did you get approached by Rat at all recently to join them after they got rid of basically everybody?
Nope.
Okay.
Nope.
Nope.
The only time I heard about it was when Blotzer said it in an interview.
Oh, I was just curious because, you have a history there, and I'm like, well, if you're going to get rid of DeMartini, who are you going to bring in? I'm like, well, it might spike my interest if you had Jake, but anyway, that was the only reason I asked. On to Patina. It came out November 9th on Frontier Records. It's pretty much available everywhere. I am waiting for my precious orange vinyl to arrive later this month. Me
too.
This album has really been a grower for me. you kind of seem to have veered back towards what you were doing in Badlands, at least compared to the first Red Dragon records. I'm really digging Speed Bag. I like The Luxury of Breathing, Chasing Ghosts, Ink and Water. Those would be the initial standout tracks to me. What do you want to tell me about this record? It sounds a lot more cohesive than the last one. Did you guys actually record this like a band? Going to a studio for a few days, a week, or whatever?
Yeah, no. Yes, it was done more as a band, and no, it wasn't a couple of weeks or a couple of days a week. It was every day. It was every day of every week of the whole time it took.
Kind of old school.
It was done at Anthony's studio, which is a ranch in Dillsburg, Pennsylvania. Shout out to Dillsburg.
Dillsburg!
But it's in the middle of nowhere, really. And he has a 2-story house on as part of the ranch and a separate studio. So we were able to live in the house and then walk across the horse field to the studio anytime we wanted to, because it was in the middle of nowhere. So mostly if I decided we were going to do something at 2 a.m, we could. And
now you're Ozzy knocking on someone's door. Let's go. It's Jake.
I know. It harkens back to that. Although I was a little more
probably not as wasted.
Yeah, I was more coherent. It was from the beginning. I knew I wanted to do it the way I'd always done it before. The first Red Dragon Cartel album was done very very piecemeal, very bit by bit, where I don't think there was ever any two musicians that played on any song that were in the same room together.
Okay, kind of like the modern way of doing things, sending tracks to each other.
The modern way, the Kevin Churko way,
Okay.
And it was interesting for me to do it that way. I was willing to give it a shot. Well, for example, I've never met Paul Di'Anno, and he sang on my fucking record. It's just weird,
Yeah.
And I think the first record's a good record. I
loved
stand
it.
by it. But it is somewhat disjointed sounding. I mean, it sounds like what it is. It's a record that was put together with different musicians, different singers, and it sounds like that because that's what it is. This record sounds much more like a band effort because it was done that way. When we wrote the songs, I would come up with the music, I'd come up with the riffs, but then I had the band there in the room with me to work on it. So it didn't end up just being, here's the verse part, here's the chorus part, play to it. Then we could work on it and as a band say, oh, this song needs to go here now. We need to change this. And we'd be able to work it out so it sounded more like a song and sounded more like a band. And it was. We worked on the songs together, and then we recorded it while we were all playing. I don't know how familiar people are with the recording process, but the first thing you want to put down is the drums. And doing it Kevin Churko style, which I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it. It comes up with amazing sounds.
Yeah.
He'll do and I don't want to give his secrets away. I'm sure I'm not. He'll have the drummer go in and just play the bass drum and the snare.
Oh, yeah, actually, what's his name? The guy who Mutt Lange did that with Def Leppard.
Yeah, well, Kevin was an engineer or a student of Mutt Lange.
Oh, there we go.
So, yeah, you'll just do the kick and the snare, and then you'll go back and you'll put in the fills with the toms, and then you'll go back and you'll do all the brass, the cymbals, separately. And
it allows you to isolate each little drum part and mix it a little more control mixing.
Yeah, and you can make it sound fantastic because you have all that control over it. That's the modern way of doing it. The way we did it was very old school, where you mic the drums up. It's one take. Well, it's not one take, but you do it take by take. And the rest of the band is playing with the drums.